Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight, part 3 of our State of Current Events Roundtable here on Infotainment News. I'm your host, James Hicks. My role today will be primarily to facilitate, keep us on point and on schedule. I'm also going to be moderating comments coming in from the live audiences as we are streaming live on multiple platforms tonight. We are streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. This forum, since we began, has talked and debated about the state of current events, primarily with a focus on the issues people of color have dealt with for decades as it relates to police behavior. Too many black boys, men, girls, and women are losing their lives at the hands and knees of those in a position expected to protect and serve. Now, we can take that statement itself and go in many different directions and could talk and debate for hours. But let's stay focused. The goal for tonight, similar to our last sessions, is to have a constructive dialogue, share stories, discuss, and debate. At the core, we will be respectful to each other and ultimately we'll work to help everyone realize that they can play a part in this much needed dialogue and make their voices and actions relevant for positive change. We're not going to fix the world's problems here, but having these awkward and uncomfortable conversations is part of the healing and corrective process. Our panel tonight is jam-packed. I'm humbled and grateful that we've got the folks behind the curtain right now. I got men, women, father, mother, students, and our next generation of young adults. As I bring everyone on screen, I'm going to pose a question to the separate audience. So let me slowly bring my panel on screen so they can start engaging and interacting. Again, thank you guys for joining. This is going to be a great discussion. Let's not hold bars. Let's make it happen. Let's be open and let's dialogue and let's be communicative. And I know that a lot of folks are watching, so they're looking for us to again have those, as I say, awkward but yet necessary conversations. So let's start with this question, and for the parents, if you could state your name and how many kids you have and what ages they are. Then answer the question, are you having conversations with your kids about social issues happening now, and how are you approaching that topic? Ladies first, I'm going to start with Devin.
I knew that was going to happen. I'm awkward, sorry. My name is Devin. I have a 6-year-old son, and he doesn't quite understand what's going on. I think mostly I just teach him just to treat everyone with kindness and just to kind of try to ease him into little things, but he's totally accepting of everything and everyone and stuff like that.
Right. Dana, let's go next to you.
Hey there, I'm Dana. I'm a mom of 4 girls. I have a 24-year-old, 19, 17, and a 9-year-old. What I'm doing with them right now is I'll pretty much check in. I'll say, because normally I say, how are you guys eating? You guys eating healthy? You know, blah, blah, those kinds of things. But lately I've been asking them, how are you emotionally? And my 17-year-old surprised me when she actually took a long time to give me an answer. And but after thinking about it, she was okay. She said, I'm okay. I'm blessed. And honestly, like my 9-year-old surprised me the other day. We were like, let's go get Starbucks. And she goes, I don't want to go there. They're racist. And I'm like, 9 years old. She's already knowing these things. So they are affected. They're seeing things. They're posting things. My 17-year-old's posting a lot of things on her social media. So I know it's affecting them. And I just check in with her, make sure she has an outlet, make sure she's, mentally cool. And my 1924, they're young adults. They're talking amongst their friends. And I don't really talk to them too much about it. We talk mostly business stuff and ideas and stuff like that with them. But it's mostly my 17 and 9-year-old I'm most concerned about because they keep it inside mostly.
Right. That's a good point that you brought up, though, talking about from a mental perspective, right? Because yeah, we can talk about everything that I was going to say old school, right? Reading the newspaper, but like seeing on the TV or hearing on social media, where the case may be. But what is it? How is it affecting the younger adults and our kids from a mental perspective, right? I mean, because their minds are still evolving and growing, and are very influenced by everything that they see around them, especially with their parents. So Eric, let me go next to you then. From a father's perspective, and you've got your kids are varying in age. One's right to the right of you on the screen right here as well. But are you having those types of conversations with your kids?
Psych. Honestly, we have those conversations. They're not as awkward, but basically, well, Devin and I will actually get into some conversations about, hey, this is what happened, things that happen, and we'll probably bring them up later. But like with my kids, in my life growing up, I've had racism from two different directions, just being a biracial. So for me, what I didn't want to do was be able to hold hatred in my heart. So I don't pass those things to my kids. The only thing I tell my kids is that you try to be the best person you can be, and you love all those people until they teach you otherwise, until they show you otherwise. And Devin will tell you, I don't teach her to hate. I don't teach any of my kids to hate. And because it was a struggle for me growing up. I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't know where I fit. And then all I did was just find people that were like-minded, no matter what race they were or what color they were. In my mind, racism is just a human construct that they created to put us in a box. And I don't believe in race. I believe when I look, okay, put it this way: I'm a father of 4. I got a 29, a 28, a 17, and 16. Correct me if I'm wrong, Devin.
How old are you, Devin?
Gonna be 29 this year.
So we're 29, but and honestly, it was a struggle for me, and I didn't want any of them to have to deal with the stuff that I dealt with, because it was a lot. I know people keep thinking it's more prevalent now and you see it in the news, but it's like, to me, it's not like blatant like it was when I was growing up. I mean, it was like blatant. You knew, what I liked about the East Coast, I mean, not that I liked it, is that you knew where not to go, because they tell you don't belong here, or, but like, long story short, I don't teach my kids to hate, and I think that's the biggest part.
Yeah. And, we can go into some different avenues with that as well if we've got time. Because I wonder if some of that understanding of society comes from your military background, right? Because you've been to different places and you've seen different folks and you've interacted with folks from a professional and a personal perspective, as opposed to someone who was born here, lives here, works here, hasn't gone anywhere else, right? So I mean that's an interesting dynamic that you and I share as well. Mm-hmm. But let's move on, because you mentioned about the East Coast, and I got 2 East Coast folks here on the screen. But let me ask them, because those are the non-parents up there. And so for the non-parents, state your name, and if you're a high school student or recently graduated or in college. Your question is, in your peer groups, have you had discussions about the social issues involving police force, the protests, the removing of statues, etc.? And what have those conversations been like? As always, ladies first. We'll start with you, Mildred.
Thank you. So my name is Mildred. I just graduated high school, and in like 2 weeks, I'm going to college, which is insane. Thank you. I have had a lot of conversations with my friends about sort of everything that's going on and what we see in social media and the news and things like that. And I think the most interesting part is that even though my friends, we seem to think that we're pretty like-minded, I've had a range of conversations from people who said, yes, tear all the statues down, the protests are, that whole thing. And then there's ones that say, okay, but maybe violent protesting isn't the way to go because that's all they've seen in the media. And I've had people who won't even acknowledge their white privilege when I say I have white privilege, and they tell me that as a Latina, I don't have white privilege, even though we've had conversations about color and race and things like that. And I just think it's very interesting to see because all of my friends come from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, but also having conversation with my parents. So not only my peers, coming from, I think that the Latino media has not really presented the situation very well, in my opinion. And so having that awkward conversation at the dinner table and saying, this is what I believe, and being able to discuss that with people of different ages. So that's kind of how my conversations have been going.
And so are you initiating those conversations more than you're seeing other folks, or I almost kind of know the answer, some of the answer just for myself, because I know kind of some of your peer group, but your peer group I think is different, right? You guys are very
Yeah.
outspoken, very very involved, but are you seeing other folks that maybe have graduated with you as well? Are the young folks initiating those conversations, or are they looking out to others?
Yes, definitely. I think I've had a lot of my friends be the ones who tell their parents, let's talk about this instead of it going the other way around.
Okay.
And I've had they all post. I mean, posting on social media seems like something very small to do compared to everything else. But I have friends organizing protests, and I'm holding a couple of fundraisers. My friends are helping me with that, things like that. We're very, I don't think that we really want to let it go on longer than it has to, and just kind of doing our part in what little ways that we can. And also holding people accountable, I think, is something that we don't really talk about. But I think a lot of the younger generation, we're holding brands, like you said, we don't want to shop at places that are going to condone racism or going to condone those types of things. And so having conversations about, okay, we don't want to eat here, where else can we eat that's not going to support that? Ben and Jerry's has been great. We've all been talking about Ben and Jerry's, things like
Ben and
that.
Jerry's has always been great.
Yeah, but we never thought of it because we were
Yeah,
like, oh, it's expensive, we don't have money, but we were like, let's buy more from those types of places. So
that makes sense. That's a good point. That's a good. Malachi, talk to me, man. You got all this fancy equipment on. You got headsets, and you're got 4 or 5 monitors going on. Talk to me about what's going on in the East Coast. What are you seeing from your peer groups, man?
Well, I have like two peer groups. I have my friends, then I have my work colleagues. And all my work colleagues are like double my age, old, like could be my dad and my grandfather essentially. And they have it in their minds that like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and they're all Republicans, and it's all like it's bad going on. The protests are bad. Uh, like it's kind of crazy to have someone that you work with that you have to trust and think that everything in the world's fine when it's not. And then I have my friend group online, and they're retweeting everything, they're signing petitions, excuse me, they're like going the extra mile. And it just goes to show you we do have allies. We do have white allies, we do have Latino allies, we have Hispanic allies, we have Asian allies. We do have allies out there. And it's, to me, it's just like two sides, like two completely different sides I see. And of course I support Black Lives Matter and all that. And it's sometimes hard to hold my tongue when I'm with my work colleagues
Yeah.
because of like I'm a minority there, and I don't want like, oh, they're gonna do this and this, and like, oh, he thinks this way. There's no reason we need to help him out, and it's like I can't shake the boat too
Yeah.
much.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, that's understandable, right? Again, I mean, I'm not gonna say there's a time and a place, but there's always been that adage, right, of mixing religion and politics, right? When you go to the water cooler at work, but never shy away, I would say, because you talked about age, bro. I'm older than your daddy, man. So you make me feel old just when you made that statement. But take this from a seasoned man right here with more salt and pepper in his beard. Have those conversations with folks because honestly, I believe more and more folks that think differently than you, who look differently than you, who feel differently, actually want to have this dialogue, right? There are more folks watching today behind the scenes than wanted to be on camera. And I kind of told a little bit, got some of this to you guys during the pre-show. I reached out to a lot of folks to have kind of a mixed audience on the panel today, but many folks were saying, I'm not ready to get on the screen. I'm not ready to maybe say the wrong thing, but my reaction to that is it's okay. We have to have these awkward. We have to have these challenging conversations because that's the only way we're going to get better and we're going to move forward. So, but that's a good point that you make there. Isaiah, talk to us, man. Give us who you are. Tell us what it's like in your neck of the woods.
My name is Isaiah. I am 1 year away from graduating college, doing my
Nice.
clinical rotations at the local hospital. And I, like my brother, have an online group of friends as well as a physical group of like-minded students. But there also have been some uncivil discussions with those students as well. Because like Mr. EB said, there are parts of my own state that I can't go to or I'm not particularly welcome at. A lot of the conversations have been very echo chambery, though. Like, we're not getting a lot of other sides. So I'm glad that we're able to have that kind of discussion.
Yeah.
Because I had this discussion the other day in a communications class about when tearing down statues, they said, oh, it's part of our history, part of our heritage. And I just kind of told them flat out that it's a history of losers. They were a rebellious traitor to the country. And we beat them in battle, and we accepted them back, but they're still kind of waving that flag around and toting their beliefs because it's the flag of losers and traitors, as the best way to put it.
Yeah, no, and so where you live, right? We can say, definitely far East Coast, my neck of the woods, where
south.
all my extended family is, right? Virginia area and things like that. And look, we were there a couple of years ago. Confederate flag is everywhere, right? And it's flying high, and it's very contentious. And my worry, or it's more overt than it is on the West Coast, and it just is, right? Because that's where the hearts of the South, the deep roots, Confederate started, and they're mad that they lost, and all of that. So I know it can be challenging, again, like Malachi was saying, being in different scenarios and different environments of having these types of conversations, but stay strong, man. I'm with you. We pray for you that you continue to speak your truth, speak your mind, and don't let anyone sway you in terms of having those messages out. I want to go ahead, Mr. EB, as you were referring to. I see you.
EB.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were talking earlier about what governments and stuff should do, and not just take like the whole. People shouldn't suffer for the whole. But again, when looking at statues and what they represent, what they stand for, that's what you have to. If they're talking about holding up the Confederate flag and what that was representing, because what that was representing back then was slavery, being unequal, not human. I mean, those are things that you have to look at and say, you know what, it shouldn't be up. It shouldn't be up. And looking at that, but do I think every statue represents that same thing? Yeah, there was probably some people that possibly had some racist comments or thoughts in their earlier days and age. But I think they're talking about doing John Wayne, tearing down John Wayne and John Wayne Airport and stuff, and because he made a comment. But now, I mean, if he was part of the KKK, yeah. But what did he bring to television? What did he bring? I mean, they have to take everything into consideration, not just, oh yeah, that's just racist. I don't believe that to be true, because there are people that contributed. Like I said, when we talk about racism isn't one-sided. I know this because I have lived it. There's people that it's just people that have hate in their heart, and when you hold that hate in your heart, that's again, I'm not saying that there is no racism. What I'm saying is it's just not one-sided. Now there are people benefiting from that is one-sided, but you have to look at the the big picture. We can't get rid of racism unless we get rid of it across the board. People can't hold a lot of hate and expect other people to stop their hate while we continue to hate, or vice versa. So
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think again, it starts with everyone on this call. It starts with everyone listening, and as I said in the intro, we're not going to try to solve the world's problems, but what we can do is influence into our sphere, our 5-mile radius of influence. Right? You can talk to your neighbor, you can talk to your friend, you can call someone, you can text, whatever. You can talk to folks that are close within your range and start that dialogue, and that'll just reverberate out. So, I mean, that's really the grassroots method for changing mindsets and changing the whole conversation, the whole diameter. So I want to continue on, and one of our viewers actually typed in a comment here that I may want to utilize later. But I want to kind of stay on track and stay on target. Let me play a video for everyone, and I'd like to get your perception on this video, and then we'll have a conversation about this piece.
We are tired. We are tired of being beaten by policemen. We're tired of seeing our people locked up in jail over and over again. And then you holler, be patient. How long can we be patient? We want our freedom, and we want it now. We do not want to go to jail, but we will go to jail if this is the price we must pay for love, brotherhood, and true peace. I appeal to all of you to get in this great revolution that is sweeping this nation. Get in and stay in the streets of every city, every village and hamlet of this nation until true freedom comes, until the revolution of 1776 is complete. We must get in this revolution and complete the revolution. For in the Delta of Mississippi, in Southwest Georgia, in the Black Belt of Alabama, in Harlem, in Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, and all over this nation, the black mass is on the march for joy and freedom.
So that was back in 1963, but could have just as well been yesterday, right? And rest in peace to Brother John Lewis right there. We lost 2 great civil rights leaders this week. My next question, you guys, is why do you think we're still fighting this fight and dealing with the exact same issues that Mr. Lewis talked about then? Daniel, let's start with you, please.
So I think we're still going through this. I would like to piggyback off of what Eric says, and it's that it has a lot to do with power and that it's a class thing. People, honestly, the 13th Amendment, 1865, abolished slavery. But since then, it's like you have people having to, so from what I've read from history was that after slavery, they were imprisoned and taken in to still do slavery work. And that whole concept was brought into modern day world where people are being taken in, I think that people in power have a lot to do with that. And unfortunately, when you have that kind of mentality, it bleeds off into the children and society in general. You have like hate all around. You have people hating Asians. I was walking home from school one day and freaking these like 5 white teenage boys threw humongous pieces of mud in my face, and they're like chink, 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 and I was like, what the heck? I was all about America and I love America. I didn't even know what Filipino was. I thought I was just like everybody else. And to know that this kind of hate, exists, it was such an eye opener. And as I got older, you're exposed to different stuff. And I think it has a lot to do with being in control and just keeping minds small so they can't flourish. And so they can't work in numbers to be greater than. So that's my take on that.
And just to And just, I know she was like commenting on what I was saying, is because it's a status thing. Again, there's this, in order to keep in order to keep a group of people down, you got to keep, it's like you make them God fearing, point blank. And we're not going to go into religion and everything like that. But if you have people coming together, you can't control them. You will not be able to control groups of people. So you separate them. You create, and again, I'm not saying there's people that have hate, but where is that hate coming from? Why is it still out there? Why is it still happening today? And I'm telling you, it's because just like I like to be around like-minded individuals, there's other like-minded individuals in every race that says, hey, I only want my race to be this race. I only want my race to be white. I only want my race to be black, in every group. And in my mind, the reason why it stays is because those groups always want to keep that. They don't want to share that. They don't want to. There was a comment that was made in the news saying, "Hey, there's before you know it, there's not going to be any more white people." And that's not true. Our cultures, becoming more diverse internally. Yeah. Again, somebody just put in here, Michelle said, prejudice and bigotry is not exactly, it's not the same as racism. But again, this is outside of the whole institutional racism. That's, again, another class where people are still trying to keep people down, down here fighting over, this to deflect from what's really happening, like way up here, and causing everybody to, and yeah, so I just want to piggyback on what Dana was talking about. When we talk about it's more of a status thing, the institution is keeping it that way, or institutionally on higher levels are keeping it that way so that we continue to fight amongst ourselves to keep us from going to these other levels. You think about who controls the top percent of the cash flow. If everyone gets up there, that means their status is no longer a status, because everybody can attain that status. That's what we're talking about. Am I talking about racism and bigotry? No, of course not. There's still going to be hate, out there. But what we're talking about on a higher level, the reason why they keep it and don't change it, put it this way. 1776, the Constitution was developed in a time where we still had wagon wheels and we still had dirt roads. Why wasn't it written so that it could be modified just like the economy changes during each decade? Our economy changes, just like that changes. Why doesn't our Constitution change? Why doesn't the Constitution adapt itself to the current situation? Same thing with like retirement. People said, they said you set up your retirement at this point when you're 25. Should the economy, excuse my language, the economy changed by the time you're 50, 65. The economy is totally different. Can you live off of what you created as a retirement? I just went off on a tangent. So can you bring it back?
Yeah, and I was sitting here, right, and I think one trait that I think I have is letting folks speak, right, because want to hear what you say without interrupting. So I respect you wanting to say what you were saying there, and you went off on a tangent, but that's all right. And you can say what you want. You can curse all you want, brother. We own this channel. I think at the core, though, I think what we're really focusing on is systemic racism, right? The fact that the way that this country was founded and started, those of a permanent shade, were never considered to be 100% legal holders of any property.
But think about that. And again, hold that thought, because think about that. Who controls that? I know we think we vote and we do all this stuff, but then at a higher level, wouldn't you think they would know better than to, if somebody didn't win the popular vote yet, they all of a sudden they come back with this what was the other
Electoral college?
The Electoral College. I'm like thinking, I didn't hear that until this is the last election. What I'm saying is the power and the control, it could change. It could be changing at a higher level. But why doesn't it? The system is higher than us. You see what I'm saying? So
I see what you're saying.
The system is keeping it that way. The system,
because it benefits them.
It benefits them, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, you got there. You were trying to you took the scenic route, and but you got there. You took Highway 1 up the coast, and you got there. But that's an interesting tangent that you brought up, EB. And again, respectfully, I think we need to continue to have that conversation. And I think the audience and we understand where you're coming from, and there are truths in what you were saying. But again, being cognizant of time and wanting to go through this, wanted to get that out. But let's go to Mildred. Back to that John Lewis speech, and again, kind of the question of the moment is, again, I was back in '63. It's 2020. It's a rough year. 2020 just started off bad, but why are we still having that exact same conversation today that we had back then?
Well, and I think one of the biggest problems is that for so many years the narrative never changed. History is taught by the winners, or so we call them, or like you said, losers. But still they teach us history. And so for people that are taking classes like APUSH, American history, we never get taught about the Black heroes. We get taught about there were these bad white men, but we never say the names of any Black heroes. We never acknowledge the changes that Black scientists or just any person of color that they have made in innovation in our lives. And so I think one of the positive things about maybe our generation, and the reason why some of us are really kind of mad about everything that's going on is I talked with my parents, but I grew up with Michelle Obama. I grew up with Oprah. I looked up to those women. I wrote about them in my college essays. And I think previous generations never got the chance to really see Black people in power, but also Black people just kind of killing the game, you'd say, if you were like on Instagram or something. And having them be—
Is that what the kids are saying nowadays? Is that what y'all say now, killing the game?
I don't know. I'm not really that good at Instagram, but things like that, or having literature, having things that are written by Black authors to see their side of the story instead of a white author pretending that they're Black for the sake of the story. And so I think that that's really important. And it also goes not only to the Black community, but Latinos, Asians. We all feel this sort of underrepresentation of, I don't want to grow up to be a farmer, and there's no shame in being a farmer. We are hardworking people, but that's not all that I should be taught in school, and I shouldn't be taught that by perhaps a white professor. No hate to white people. I am a white person, clearly, but the narrative needs to change, and I think that that's what's causing us to really talk about it, and what makes our generation so mad about it is because that's why we still are having the same conversation as in 1963.
Yeah, and the conversation is kind of as what EB was saying, folks in power for an extended period of time from the beginning, folks who, as I mentioned kind of in the intro, who are designated to protect and to serve. And now I think I'm gonna pivot and I'm gonna bring in this question that was brought up by my wife. So so this is crazy, right? When you think about it, all the protests that have been happening have been looked at from a negative perspective, from a Black Lives Matter perspective, things of that. But when the local law enforcement wants to do something, they portray it in a different light. They portray it in more of a rally, more of something with a positive connotation. You look up in the dictionary, you look up protest, you look up rally. There's a whole different positive versus negative explanation. So let me put this over to the young men over there on the East Coast, because again, it's such a different clash. I mean, we've got our clashes here on the left side, no doubt. But I just want to pose this let me start with you, Isaiah, right? When you walk up and down the street, right, man, and you got when you got the police out there, and they say they're doing something, what's that energy like, right? Again, I mean, just look at the question that came from the audience here. Black Lives Matter protests. We're tearing down statues. We're doing this. It's all negative. But shouts out to the police officers. All right? We got to have them, but I've had unfortunately too many negative experiences with them, and right now it's just we're not gonna have that discussion. But quiet, Evie. My mom is watching, and but I said talk to the question that's on the screen right now. Let me start with you, and then Malachi, I want you to start thinking about this as well.
They are trying to demonize it in the media. If they make it look like it's illegitimate or wrong, then they have that narrative to back them up. However, when they frame it in a positive light, like a rally for the police, it gets that support. It sounds more like appealing to the people. But a protest, you have those imagery in your head of violent. You have water hoses in your head. You have dogs. You have rising elevations of aggression. And to speak on what Ms. Mildred said before, we are learning about a lot about the kids with the whitest of skin, and they try to white out their own sins a lot of the time, where they're covering up that kind of issues and their kind of mistakes, as I would call it. And they're like, oh, you should just forgive and forget, but they don't. It's hard to forgive and forget when they just try to hide it themselves. Yeah. They try to say that they're sorry without actually apologizing, without actually having any remorse for what they're saying. And again, they want us to be illegitimate. They want us to be seem like we're extremists, but we're not. We're just regular people who want something different than they do. And they don't want to give it to us. They don't want to give us that respect we're looking for, that freedom. I don't want to say freedom. We're land of the free. We're, again, a good country, but unfortunately, there's this narrative that they've already succeeded, that they've given us our rights. We had our civil rights movement.
Interesting.
And revered, but it's not getting better. It's just getting recorded. It's just becoming more and more public to everyone else. And we have to look at see how it's happening.
You hit it on the nail right there, brother. Right. Again, this stuff, and I think I said this in part 1, right, when we first started having this. This is nothing new, right? But what's happening now is everyone's walking around with one of these cameras in their pocket, right? So I can now capture all of these instances in a minute. I can put it out on social media, and literally the whole world can see it. And more folks are seeing it and saying, you know what, that's wrong, right? That shouldn't be. I heard about it. I didn't believe it was happening before, but you know what? It is happening because I see it now. I'm the doubting Thomas. I actually see it happening, and let's do something about that. I'm switching because we're going in a different direction.
One last thing. And when I say that is because what we need to do is also, there's this word that we throw out all the time, is the they. And again, we're generalizing. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with they, but we have to define who the theys are, because the theys that are keeping us from doing what we need to do or getting things published. And I think it's a huge responsibility to media. Everyday people aren't writing those things out there and saying, hey, police appreciation rallies. Media is doing that. And in my mind, media needs to be unbiased. If my narrative is always going to be one-sided, I know that don't go to that news, that media outlet. Or if I know that it's another way, and then the only media outlet I'm going to get. So I'm only going to get half the truth. And I'm going to go to the truth that I think. It may not necessarily be the truth. We have to look at people. The news has to be like a judge, unbiased, and say, hey, here's what happened. Here's the other thing that happened, and get a better sense of what's happening. You can't give me a half picture of something and then expect and then think, oh yeah, this is the truth. You got to have the whole picture from start to finish. And again, it's a media responsibility to say, if it's a policeman's rally, if it's a protest or a rally to find like-minded individuals because we want change. Yeah. That's what media is a huge. And again, think of the they. What they media? Which media outlets?
Well,
who owns? How far does that go up?
No, I'm not media.
Right. So and you think about it. So if all of media was to be objective like you want it to be, it wouldn't sell.
Nope.
Right.
Exactly.
So cable TV is all entertainment. So it's all entertainment. So
well, then
you never. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. But to clarify to Mr. EB, of the they I'm referring to is the same they that Dr. Martin Luther King was referring to. The white moderate is the biggest threat to civil rights, because they're just like, they're on the middle of the line. They're like, I could get behind it if it wasn't a violent protest. But as soon as the violence stops, the narrative and the media coverage ceased as well. We're still having the protests. We're still asking for these things, justice for the people who deserve justice. Yeah. But because they're no longer violent protests, they're not getting that same media coverage, because they wanted to demonize us. If they had the violent protests, it's easy to get like, I can hop on the side of they shouldn't be. If they were just, abiding by the law, it's a lot easier to support them. But that's the issue. We're still doing everything as we're supposed to be doing, everything as we're told to be doing them to get the results.
But why are but again, you have to understand, why are we acting off of, a lot of times when you look at there's just like the videos of people protesting, the videos behind the scenes when they show that it was actually police dropping off bricks so that people could start throwing bricks, people, behind the scenes, whites actually the ones throwing rocks and breaking windows. You're just saying you have to think about, why are they doing that? Why is someone out there?
Like I said,
Exactly. Because they want to that, but we don't have to act on that, right? People don't have to act on those things.
Go ahead, Mildred.
mob mentality.
So the one thing I was going to say is that the biggest problem I'd see with social media and what you're talking about is that we are getting confirmation bias from our own media sources. A lot of young people don't really look at cable news anymore, at least that I know of. But basically the problem is that if you are a left-leaning individual and you are going to see a lot of Black Lives Matter media, and you are going to see exactly what you're talking about, white supremacists who are going and starting the violent portion of these protests. But if you are already a right-leaning individual, you're not going to see any of that. You're just going to see the other side, or the side that perhaps doesn't have that sort of authentic that sort of evidence that we have. And so when you're talking about like not biased media, in a way we bias our own media through liking the posts that we like and things like that. I don't see any right-leaning media because I'm not right-leaning. And when we talk about white moderates, if you're not actively looking for this information, then a white moderate is just going to see a bunch of girls posting about their beach vacation or things like that, and they're not going to see what's really happening.
That's right.
That's a very good point. A few minutes ago, I said I was going to pivot and I was going to change a little bit, and just because that's where the conversation was going. And again, I want to keep it dynamic, but this topic that we're on right now is very good and very, very relevant. I do want to take a step back though and go back to kind of what we were talking about just a second ago. Looking at kind of current state and seeing more and more diversity of people acknowledging anti-Black racism. Your thoughts, and I'm gonna start with you, Devin. Your thoughts. Do you think this is just a passing phase, or do you think it represents really a shift that will endure? All right, do you think that folks outside of the Black and Brown community who have endured this forever, that are seeing that these bad things that are happening because they're now online with everyone, they're standing up, they're talking. I see more white folks out with Black Lives Matter signs than anything now. Yeah. It's a good thing, right? It's a good thing. I mean, do you think it's just a passing fad, passing phase? But what's your thoughts? Do you think this will continue as now it's raised to bubble up to the surface?
I mean, I had one of my best friends. He's gay and he's white, and he actually brought up to me that one of my old bosses, the old salon owner, she's white and she hasn't posted anything. And he was like, I just, it's so frustrating that somebody with that white privilege wouldn't say anything. And it really got me thinking. And I'm like, yeah, but I think also to an extent too, I think some people aren't fully comfortable with saying things. Like for me, sometimes I don't like saying all of my thoughts because I don't want to ever cause ruffle. I was always raised, like my mom, she's white and Mexican, and I have a white stepdad, and they always were like, no, you're white. This is just how you are. And you're not, I don't look it, so I shouldn't say anything. So I always am like, well, I think some people just aren't comfortable, but I do think for a while, I thought maybe it was just a fad, but I think now that people are starting to see it, like there's a lot of really great people out there that haven't endured this. Like, I've only lived on the West Coast, so I haven't had to walk down the streets and not be allowed, like Isaiah was saying, like certain areas you're not allowed in. And, I've never experienced that. So I think the more people know that are, good people, whether white, pink, purple, whatever, it will start a change. And I think if, like my dad said too, with if we all came together as a nation, any color, anything, and just kind of saw, like I feel like the government is kind of trying to put us against each other because they're trying to keep us down here so then they can stay above, they can stay in power, because we're too busy fighting each other versus focusing on, like with the COVID scenario. I know it's a way different topic. My family's affected because the government won't let me work, so they're keeping this whole, every time we start to say, oh, wait, it's the government. They're like, oh, no, now it's COVID. Oh, no, now it's Black Lives Matter. Oh, no, it's this. But it's with the whole, also someone else had said about the media, and, on the media, it was showing a white little hipster girl that was tagging, the Capitol or wherever it was, the BLM. It wasn't really had anything to do with the protesters. Or my boyfriend's barbershop was looted, and they saw on the cameras. It wasn't by a Black man or anybody or someone from the protest. It was from an Asian guy that was using that as a diversion to take advantage.
Wow. Okay.
So, not to go off on a tangent, but I do hope that there's change. And I think if we could just all come together, which I think we're starting to, because we do have our cell phones and stuff like that, I think it will. It's starting now. It's just a slow process, but the government keeps trying to divert us away from seeing what's really going on.
Right. Hey, you know what? We may bring you back on camera, but before I switch and let Malachi ask that same question, Devin, go ahead and give a shout out for your salon. I know right when you're drinking, I'm asking, give a shout out.
No, sorry, I get nervous. So I own a salon, Haven and Harlow. If you guys need any products, let me know.
There it is. There, family discount coming my way. There it is.
Yeah.
I love it. Malachi, talk to me, brother. Your neck of the woods, what you're seeing, again, more and more types of folks are out there. Well, let me ask you the question instead of assuming. Are you seeing a different shade and blend and group of folks that are out there saying this is wrong and this needs to be addressed in where you live?
Yes, I actually did drive by two protests where one of them, they actually shut down the street, Mercury. Was it Mercury or Jefferson? It was Jefferson. And they actually had police escorts, which were good. And then we had another one, which I didn't witness, but they shut down the highway, I-64. And they were just protesting there. Saw everyone there, all different races, all different colors. So it is out there. We do have allies, like I said before. So
I like that, allies. I mean, that's true, right? I mean, there is a lot of negativity, right? The year started out, we lost Kobe, right? So I still haven't, come up from that. My gym is closed, so me and Mr. Burks down there, we're going through withdrawals, and then we've got all this. We got COVID. We've got 45 in office, which is causing issues. Before we went live today, I saw old boy Kanye West out there trying to do something, and look, that's just not good. I don't even want to give him any more airtime than his name right now. But there is more positive, and I think there's more good happening in the world overall than there is negative. We just tend to focus on the negative because as we're going back to the media and the news, what sells and what's sexy is all the negativity. So keep everyone in the dumpster, keep everyone in the ground, focusing on what's negative as opposed to what's happening really positively in the world. So
exactly.
Yeah, that movie Bug's Life. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Bug's Life. Every time you guys bring that up, I'm thinking Bug's Life. That one speech that Hopper, I think is his name. It's been a while since I've seen it, but
it was yesterday. You watched it last night.
Nah, I actually pulled up the clip. I was gonna watch it just to get a remembrance of it, but he hits this all in the nail, or hits it on the head.
Yeah.
With his whole speech saying, if one steps up, they all might step up, and that's what people are afraid of, or people in power are afraid of.
Exactly.
That if we finally get our voice, if we finally get that, then we're going to try to take back everything, not just what we basic rights to not get killed in our house, to not have to worry about getting killed because you cash in the wrong check or on a counterfeit $20 bill. Yeah. And it's just they're afraid. And that's why we won't see change anytime soon, because they are afraid and they are spreading this fear. And
they're using fear. They're using fear as the people that are, and put it this way, if there's an abuse of power, that abuse of power is not, it looks racist, but if you abuse your authority, you will always abuse your authority. That cop, he will sit on anybody's neck. I'm sure of it. But and I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're right. People that abuse their authority will abuse their authority, and the media then spins it up to look right, because it was not that cops. He's not the judge and jury. So for people to even say, oh yeah, he stole a counterfeit God, he has a background, he has a past. Well, that ain't for that. But it wasn't for that cop to judge. It wasn't for anyone else to judge. That was not his responsibility to be judge and jury and execute him right there on the spot. That was not his. And people don't look at that and say that's wrong. Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying people. I'm saying the media. The media didn't. They said, oh wow, all they did was spin up the frenzy to say, wow, look at this guy.
Because it was racist. I mean, that was.
It is racist.
Yeah, that was.
But what I'm saying is, I think that honestly, I think that guy. I think that same guy.
And gave him water.
Hold on, let me let Isaiah go.
No, I get it. No, you're right. It was, but that if it was the same individual, I get it. But these are two different.
It was the same individual.
Wait, no.
You're saying the same cop gave somebody water?
The same cop had history of targeting Black, Hispanic, people of color, and
there's a post going around. He had 3 to 5.
20.
20. I apologize.
Yeah, it was up there. He had a lot of complaints against him.
When he was in, as well as 20 police brutality cases.
Right. No, he has a background. Right. He has. So yeah, if you look back, then for him to say that who was it, Douglas? For him to say that Floyd had a past, so did he. Why? You know what I'm saying? So why didn't they sit there and say that cop also had a past? Because that didn't come out till later. That we had to investigate that. Oh yeah, this cop had a past.
Because they investigate themselves.
Exactly.
No, they don't investigate themselves.
No, they don't. Right? They don't. Yeah. So why?
We investigate themselves.
So what does internal affairs do? Nothing. Right?
Okay.
Nothing.
So
again, systemic. But I want to address. My cousin was on here. My cousin was addressing Devin. My cousin thinks I didn't really kind of says being a part of families that are unfortunate to identify with her Black part. Devin knows all about her Black side. Now, at that time, I couldn't afford to take her everywhere, and our family's way on the East Coast. A lot of our families on the East Coast, so she didn't get exposed. But I've told Devin, you know about your grandmother, right? You know about your great grandmother, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't need to identify. It's just growing up with a white stepdad who is in law enforcement as a correctional officer, so he profiles different and his background and stuff like that. And my mom, she always just wanted me to be like, you're white, you don't look Black, so don't tell anybody. But I've always wanted more of that culture,
Yeah. I'm sorry, baby. It's okay, sweetie.
I'm gonna fight with it.
Yeah.
Sorry. But it's emotional for me. But I'm actually I do like being a part of that.
And I've always told Devin about our history and our past. It's unfortunate, but her mom did raise her. I mean, there was no way. And her mom is not racist in any means, but she is scared of at that time the current events and people being so. It's the same thing I grew up with. I don't want my daughter to grow up with something like that. To be hated and not know which way to go. But just like I was talking about half truths. Isaiah, let me know, even though I know media did let me know as well, but this guy had a past. This cop had a past. My point was, people weren't saying that it's not right for him to be the judge and jury. They brought automatically that, because the guy, he was trying to do counterfeit. He's trying to, so what? It's not that cop's job. His paycheck doesn't, his job title doesn't say, oh yeah, you can judge him and execute him right there. No one said that. No one said that. That was wrong.
It was.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you guys aren't saying that's wrong. I'm saying the media. Why didn't the media sit there and say, why the hell is this guy doing that's not his job.
People like to say, we got to wait for the whole story to come out. We got to wait for the whole facts. We don't know the whole story yet. They love to say that kind of stuff.
Well, then exactly. Then they shouldn't be posting half the story.
But they already have this
racist themselves.
The narrative. Exactly.
Justification to come out.
And that's why I say it's a responsibility of media to not do that, because they do set they.
Well, my mother put in the chat, actually. My mother put up a little bit earlier that all media is biased. There's not a single news source that's unbiased out there.
I know, that's
how it is. I have to follow a few different news sources to be able to see. And I think honestly, I follow the British Broadcasting Channel, just outside
Right.
looking in to have a better view on what it is actually
Yeah.
going on sometimes.
So I was going to only do 2 parts, and then post show last time we decided to do 3 parts. We've gone from every emotion that we can have today because we got a little warm under the collar tonight. We may have to deviate and do and continue these discussions, right? Because this is part of the healing thing, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't have these conversations, we'd end up being pent up. We'd go out, we'd see someone on the street, they rub us the wrong way, and who knows what those consequences can be. I think again, having these types of dialogues in a completely free, completely unbiased forum where folks are engaging and interacting with us real time, right? So we're pivoting, we're bouncing off of the folks that are watching and the folks that are on the screen. This is doing something. I think someone mentioned that we're not doing enough, or folks aren't doing anything out there. We are doing something to correct the narrative right now by just having these conversations. Because again, this is healing for the 6 of us that are on screen and the multitude that are watching this live and they're going to be watching it in the future. So, first of all, I guess I want to say thank you. You know what? I can count old school. I can count old school. Let me ask this, and let me get Miss Dana and Miss Mildred in the conversation now. I guess with everything that you've seen going on this year, and we kind of touched on it a little bit as well. Man, I started off with the thing that hit me first was COVID, but with everything that you see going on this year, what's been the biggest challenge affecting you directly? Dana, let's start with you.
Sorry.
No worries.
Me personally, I guess just right before COVID hit, I guess I was supposed to start a job at the airport, and that kind of got pushed to the side. Literally, I just went in and got my ID taken, and then that Thursday, word was going around that we are going to be shut down and stay-at-home order. That Monday, it was confirmed, so I ended up having to pivot and think, well, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? Maybe this is not happening to us, it's happening for us. Let's think of it that way. What can I do? So actually, I took a step back and started revamping my business and wanting to just think of ways to get out there, as opposed to thinking like, oh, what am I going to do now? I'm thinking,
Yeah.
because I know I'm not alone.
Right. I mean, the whole world is affected by the virus, right? And literally, again, the whole world is affected by that. But and I also will say that the whole world is affected by these issues and challenge these social issues that we're talking about because again, everyone is seeing it and it's now becoming a relevant conversation. So, wish you luck and success in your next chapter there. Congratulations on that new role for sure. Mildred, what about you? What's been the biggest challenge hitting you? I may know just since you're a recent graduate, but talk to us about what's hitting you.
Well, I think definitely the coronavirus is just kind of a real shock to a lot of things. I really don't, I think, graduation got canceled, but that I don't think is the biggest deal in the world when there are thousands of people dying. I didn't really make it too big. But I will say that my family, like my parents, both of their jobs kind of placed on hold for a couple of months, which you never expect. And then it's just kind of like been this whole series of unknowns. And I kind of joked when July started, I was like, okay, what's the new plague for this month? A new thing comes washing in. But I will say, I do think that it's, I'm not sure if it's a blessing or a curse, the fact that the Black Lives Matter protests didn't start when we were in school, because I cannot even imagine what those conversations would have been like, especially going to a school in Roseville, because I'm from a much more majority minority district, but going to a school in Roseville, I feel like that would have been a way different conversation. And so, but yeah, COVID, I think, was a very big
That got you.
deal.
That got you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so I mean, let's make it personal about you. You graduated. You plan to go off somewhere, or what you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm going to the University of Notre Dame in 12 days, actually. So
Oh, shouts out to Notre Dame. Okay,
thank you. Yeah,
Congratulations
I'm
on that.
studying
Congratulations.
architecture. Thank you.
Nice.
Man, I can barely, draw my name in cursive and see up here going. I love it. Devin, talk to us. What about you? What's going on? We love you. We love your emotion. We appreciate you on that. And again, this is support, right? This is definitely we're here for each other. But talk to us about what's been the biggest challenge that's affected you in life this past what was it 7 months of 2020?
Well, what hasn't right now? COVID has really hit small businesses really hard. I mean, both my boyfriend and I, we're independent contractors, so we're not working right now. So, I mean, it's frustrating. I feel like I have all these different emotions. I get that from my dad, I think. But
you're very passionate.
yeah, I was out of work for about 3 months starting March, and then we were told we can go back. We have to follow all these guidelines. We all follow these guidelines. I just opened up my studio, and then we're there for 4 weeks, no cases, and then all of a sudden we're told we can't work. So I feel like it's just been, it's kind of made me, look at, should I try a new career? Like my boyfriend was thinking about like, well, does he do EMT school? Or, I'm getting an insurance with Dana and my dad. And, it's just, we really don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know, like the hair is such a passion and it's such a way for me, I know for most hairstylists and barbers to express themselves and provide comfort in these really trying times. I have so many clients that talk to me about all these discussions that we're talking about right now. Yeah. And I feel like as a hairstylist, my job is to help them and I can't help them, and then right now, obviously we're not able to work. So it sucks. It really sucks.
Well, I hope this California, I'm not sure what other states are doing this, but I'm hoping this dimmer switch that we've got gets a little bit brighter sooner than later. But, in reality, we kind of almost knew that after the 4th, 10 days after that, something was going to happen because nobody, so many people didn't pay attention, right? What do you say, Isaiah?
Americans don't take it seriously.
No.
There you go, right, brother? I mean, I was holding my breath and I was telling everyone, after the 4th, all gatherings that something was going to happen a week and a half later, and sure enough, dimmer switch goes down. So
it's a real swift kick in the balls a little bit. Pardon my French. Is for us, we're one-on-one. We have masks on. We're sanitizing. A lot of small businesses, and then I was showing my boyfriend today. Golfland Sunsplash is open. There's hundreds of people. Yeah.
The world's open.
And no masks, no nothing. They're all in the water. And it's like, well, we're licensed for sanitation. This is our livelihood, these places that aren't, licensed for any of this, they're just able to open. So it's just kind of like, well, are we being targeted? Is that it? So it's just, but then we're told we possibly can work outside, which I'm like, I can't bleach someone's hair outside because one, how am I going to wash them? And then their hair can catch, whatever. Yeah. So it's crazy.
But then it goes back when we talked about it earlier today, James. There are businesses that are investing and making sure that they do the right things. It's another. I'm getting feedback. It's another issue where the whole is because it's not everybody. It's not every American. I know you said Americans don't take it seriously, but there are a lot of Americans that actually will wear masks. So, and there are a lot of businesses. I know the gym that I go to, I'm mad because the gym was closed, but they were taking measures to make sure that every half hour the gym was closed, everybody wipes down everything. But they did those extra measures. Devin's, her salon, they were cleaning, sanitizing everything. But then you have the bus. I know they're not wiping the bus down. They keep that going. You know what I'm saying? Because that's making money for the state. But I guess my thing is they didn't step back and say, hey, you know what? Let's look at the people that are the businesses, that are doing or investing in making sure there's preventative measures in place, as opposed to those that just having bars open, everybody's drinking, everybody's kissing, doing whatever they want to do in the bar and catching COVID. They didn't do that. But now, like you said, Sunsplash is open. Come on, people are jumping in the water, spitting in the water.
That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Open.
That's crazy. I didn't know about that.
But you're punishing the whole for a few, and I think maybe some.
I think it's a few for the whole. A few are taken seriously, and a whole lot of people aren't.
A whole. I mean, but like, okay.
Even if you don't believe in it, even if it's because I know some people are on the fence. Like, I know a lot of my loved ones, they think it's a hoax, whatever. But I think just comply. You know, I think my dad and I were talking about New Zealand. Everyone's come together and their rates are down and they just do it. And I feel like as America, we're just like, no, let's stick it to the big guy, whatever. Let's just do what we need to do so we can all, you know, it's because it's affecting, I mean, my family and so many families. I know there's so many businesses that have had to close down and, you know, all this stuff. And even with school, like it sucks. You know, my 6-year-old can't be able to go and socially interact. I told him he couldn't go to school and he just laid on the ground and just started crying. He's 6. He shouldn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Because humans are social creatures, especially at that age. They just love being around other people.
Yeah.
I have a video of I have a 5-year-old sister. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but really quickly, I have a 5-year-old sister, and I have like a video of her the first time after like 3 months that she got to Zoom with one of her friends from preschool, and she like they were just showing their little toys, and then she was like, when the Zoom was over, they were like, oh, when can we do that again? And like it was like the heartbreaking thing.
That's crazy.
That's how they learn all of their social cues and, you know, what they like, what they don't like, you know. And I'm sorry, I'm not meant to be a school teacher. He doesn't learn as well from me. So
makes you appreciate a school teacher, huh?
That's true. Shouts out to all our school teachers and everyone in education. Let me keep going though. And Eric, so again, just not to be rude, but I think we want to be cognizant of time. But I'm sitting here taking notes because I think we want to continue to have these discussions at another day. So I'm gonna reach out to you guys and let's have some more of these conversations about these particular topics. But I want to hit Malachi and Isaiah just again. What are they feeling was their biggest challenge thus far this year?
I'd like to let my older brother go first. I know he's had a lot on his mind.
Uh-oh.
No, you're good. You can go.
Full screen, Isaiah Hicks.
Sure. Would you like to give me a starting point? Somewhere you'd like me to begin?
You just said the starting point.
See, sibling rivalries right here, ladies and gentlemen. Live.
That's why you want me to go first.
Infotainment News live, right?
Formulate a response.
What's the biggest challenge affecting you directly this year? It doesn't have to be COVID. Maybe it is. It doesn't have to be kind of the Black Lives Matter or anything of that. But what's been the biggest challenge affecting you?
The biggest challenge is going to sound a little silly for me, but boredom.
No, that's real, brother. No, that's real.
That's real.
I used to work at a bar. I don't currently work there anymore. I've used my nest egg and then as well as the CARES Act, as well as the unemployment checks to avoid working for a little while.
Yeah.
But online classes are vastly different than in-person classes. Yeah. So it is a lot easier for me to learn from someone when I'm face-to-face with them. I'm in front of the X-ray machine. I'm in front of the bones. I'm actually able to see a lot more easily rather than just a screen, and then just having them talk to me, listen to it back, try to take my notes.
Yeah.
I played through a lot of video games in the quarantine. A lot of stuff has been made. A lot of progress been made on my Skyrim, Witcher.
You gotten pretty good at Fortnite, or I don't know, whatever it is y'all play now. Okay.
That's a lot of building going on, and maybe one of these days I can try to hit into a tournament and make some money, but not quite. It's just if you're at home for this amount of time, it's boring. And again, I don't want to say like that and then like, oh, people are, that's why people are out and about trying to do things. It doesn't justify it or necessarily excuse it, because I'll just be bored. That's just something, a sacrifice I have to make. I'm not going to risk anyone else's life or risk my own life because I'm bored.
That's just being considerate. That's, yeah, you're right.
Say that again.
I don't want to risk anyone else's life or risk my life because I'm bored.
Right.
And he said it was considerate. And my girlfriend texted me saying that America kind of has a selfish culture compared to some of the other Chinese, European, and Japanese cultures.
Okay.
We're a lot more self-focused and a lot more inner, rather than the Japanese people are very considerate about everyone all the time. It's a huge thing in their culture, as well as New Zealand, like Miss Dev said, where they got together and they were able to make it so people were able to open back up. We're the epicenter of the world right now for COVID cases. We're just constantly getting new cases. You constantly see people at the beach out and about without mask, and like you get clowned sometimes for walking around with a mask because like you're trying to be considerate, trying to make sure that no one else gets attacked, no one else gets hurt.
It's terrible, man.
James will let you know we grew up watching. We already said we saw masks before anybody when we were in Japan. They all wore masks back in Japan. We were like,
we started the trend back overseas. But that's an interesting point, man. And that's why I kind of wanted you to repeat that. I mean, that was incredibly articulate from you, young man. Malachi, I don't know how you gonna follow that because your brother really came through with that. You're gonna have to bring some smoke now, brother. You got to bring some smoke.
Oh well, I might not. We're gonna find out. But my biggest issue or biggest obstacle through this was actually mental health, and just gonna come out with it. I have depression. I've been diagnosed since 2014, so 6 years now. It comes and goes, but right now it's just like, excuse my French, but right now it's just a shit show going on, and it's really hard to just keep a straight and happier mind. And it's kind of like Isaiah said, you gotta do stuff to help other people, but at the same time, no one else wants to help you. Like I go to work, everyone there, we got like a few people who want to wear the mask, but we go there and no one wants to wear the mask because like, oh, it's not gonna help, and it's just like, well, why am I gonna wear my mask and try to protect them when they don't even see why we're doing it or even care? And it's just like it's just that culture and being surrounded by it 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and it's just, and then you come home, you can't go out, you can't hang out with your friends, and you're just like in your head, and it's just bad, and it gets bad, and you just got to figure out a way to figure it out. So that's my biggest obstacle going through.
And that's real, brother. So I know, and I can speak personally for you. You have an incredibly large support system. There's a whole gang of Hickses around the world, and extended family and things of that nature. But continue to rely on your family. Continue to rely on yourself and your spirituality, and things will be on a positive trajectory, man. So we're gonna find a way to get through this, right? It's been a tough road. But things will. There was a song by Sam Cooke. I think my dad actually put a comment out here right now. I feel the change is coming. We don't know when, but we know something is going to change for the better eventually. And I think as long as we continue to have these types of dialogues, it will get better because I feel better. I don't know about you. I'm gonna be selfish right now. I mean, just having this conversation with some good people like you guys. I gotta say, look, thank you for your time, your participation, and your words. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Hopefully this was a valuable use of everyone's time. Right? I said I was gonna go 45 minutes. Here we are again, just a little bit over an hour. But hopefully it was time well spent. We're just trying to do our part. We're trying to do something right. My old boss said I'm trying to put a dent in the universe, and just doing our part. So I'm not sure who knows who that old boss was. You guys are kind of young. You may not remember Mr. Steve Jobs, but yeah, I used to work for Jobs, and he said I just want to make a dent in the universe. So be strong, be safe, you guys. Look out for each other. We're doing good things, and everyone watching ITN live, we're gonna do this again. I'm not gonna hang the hat up just yet. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for joining. Be good to each other. Peace out.